is how do people come to believe in the unbelievable? I mean, we do, and these supernatural things are always analogs for real things that we face in our own lives. For instance, it's very difficult for any of us to believe that we're going to croak, you know, that we're just going to fall over and then we're going to be dead forever. But we have to come to a belief in that unbelievable thing, or else we can't, you know, live our lives with any sort of a goal, you know, with an idea that these things have an ending and that we won't always be doing tomorrow what we did today.
The Nightmare on Elm Street series uses our own dream experience to make us believe in the unbelievable. We explore here why the illusion is so compelling. More and more, the illusion depends on the capabilities of the special effects designers. K&B Special Effects in Los Angeles shows us the tools of their trade. Horror is not an abstract term, but something we intimately know, because we've all experienced it to one degree or another. And the most common way we have slipped into the grips of icy terror is through our own dreams. Nightmares. One of the most popular horror figures in modern U.S. cinema capitalizes on those nasty nocturnal events. He is Freddy Krueger, the anti-hero of the long-running Nightmare on Elm Street movies. Freddy is everyone's worst bedtime encounter. But what motivates this character who has so captured the imagination of movie audiences that his saga has been told in 5 films to date? According to the storyline, Freddy, played by actor Robert Englund, is the obscene result of multiple attacks by inmates upon a woman trapped at an asylum. This bastard of 100 maniacs grew up to be a kidnapper and murderer of teenagers. A travesty the parents of this fictional Elm Street in Springwood, USA, decided to halt when the courts would not. They burned Freddy, some say to death. And now he stalks their children through the youngsters' dreams. Freddy is truly a horrific sight, a wisecracking demonic terror with his scarred, mottled face and signature glove with steel knives, a glove he likes to use with calculated effect. Not a particularly appetizing protagonist, yet the Nightmare films have spawned a whole following for what has become the Freddy mythos. This celebrated figure stands apart from many of his horror brethren. Freddy has clout, despite the ample serving of mean-spirited slashing and gore that might lead some to dismiss the Nightmare series as just another glossy splatter movie. Splatter, the genre of films where a thematic plot functions simply as a vehicle for the real intent. Depiction of appalling and bloody acts of physical mutilation and psychological brutality. The Nightmare series focuses on horror, yes, but has attained recognition because it also offers cinematic substance. It deals with realistic life issues, and its theme of dreams as a door to a world beyond is a well-accepted facet of supernatural fiction. The films have been said to cap profound adolescent fears, then exorcise them. It's catharsis on the cheap.
Kristen! Freddy's back!
The first Nightmare on Elm Street movie deals with the themes of alcoholism and drugs, and taking charge of one's life. Nancy, the heroine in the first film, is haunted by something monstrous in her dreams that wants to kill her. She finds her high school friends are having the same dream and are being systematically butchered. Nancy knows Freddy attacks during slumber, and she refuses to sleep, refuses her girlfriend's urging to have some drugs. She takes responsibility for herself, deals with painful truths, and survives while others sleep and die.
Maybe I better go tell the lieutenant. Kill you slow.
In the second Freddy movie, the filmmakers deal with sexual issues and the physical awakening of adolescence. As in the earlier film, it also deals with staring down one's vulnerability, the awareness that one's life can be changed unexpectedly and horribly at any moment. This one is aptly titled Freddy's Revenge. During the filming of Nightmare 3, a decision was made to make Freddy less scary and more the wisecracking anti-hero. Audiences grew even more after that. A strong point in the Nightmare movies is their championing of young persons, those ignored by their parents or ostracized by their peers, and the hope for their futures if they are strong in character and fortitude. In the sequels, Freddy moves to higher levels of evil and gains greater powers, as shown in this scene from Nightmare on Elm Street 4. Freddy is attacking the future of these teens, whom he menaces. Their mettle and resourcefulness are tested. Creators of Freddy do not see any reason why this nightmare can't continue. There are messages in these movies, and more to deliver. Perhaps the best way to breathe continuing life into the series is unveiled in Nightmare 5, Son of Freddy. As they say, the nightmare continues.
It's a boy!
Today's horror films look more realistic than at any other time in the history of cinema. This is due in part to the growing talent of the special effects artists. Using exotic plastics, fiberglass, and latex foam, special effects artists take images that could only exist in the mind and bring them to life. Their talent lies in the ability to take those things that are hiding under the bed or lurking in the shadows and bring them out into the open for us to see. At the K&B Effects Group studio in Los Angeles, breathing life into our darkest fears is the order of the day, every day. Made up of Robert Kurtzman, Greg Nicotero, and Howard Berger, K&B has a 9-person staff working around the clock on some of today's most popular horror films. Watch closely. These men want to scare you.
On this side of the shop is where we do all the mechanical things that make our creatures come to life. What this does here is it's a slave unit that reproduces his jaw movement, translates it to the movement of the puppet, so the puppet duplicates his exact movement.
Basically, the radio unit is hobbyist RC radio equipment and placed in our own boxes. So it makes it easy for our fingers to work 8 different controls at one time.
Don't forget, it's only a movie. In front of the camera, these puppets come to life. What you don't see on screen is the mechanical tools that make them move. For Bride of Reanimator, K&B designed a glove that slips over the assistant's arm. Whenever the director wants, the head can pull away from the body. For Horror Show, a puppet was built for an electrocution scene.
Wire all those detonators up to a charge box, and the special effects guy would hit the detonator and sparks and fire shoot out of his face and everything.
A Nightmare on Elm Street Part 5 demanded something a bit more surreal.
From this stage, we go to this stage, the heads swing around and hit the camera, and when we pull back out, it's a different head every time. And at this point, Freddy has stretched out of Alice's face, and their tongues are connected, and all their flesh is connected. This is the last stage then, where Freddy is actually just about ready to snap out of Alice's face. And when he does, she changes back to Alice, and he changes into Freddy. This is for a film called Intruder. Scotty Spiegel, who co-wrote Evil Dead 2, is his first directing project. This is a head that we actually cut on a bandsaw and throw the actor down, and then we cut to this, and there was a camera mounted above and on the side, and we'd push it across, and it was filled with big blood bags. So blood and meat started going up the side of the blade, and it was pretty messy. This is actually the head before we cut it in half.
Each face which is cast for a puppet gets its own space on the wall.
Lance Henriksen, who plays Detective Lucas McCarthy, is having dinner with his family. He's being plagued by hallucinations by this serial killer, Max Jenke. So he's having his big turkey dinner with his family, and he looks down, and suddenly the turkey is not a normal turkey anymore, but it's this weird mutated thing. So what we did was we sculpted it so that the killer's face was growing out of the side of the turkey. The whole thing could breathe, had little air bladders in it, it could talk. One of the turkey legs actually had human fingers on one, and we also had a bunch of tentacles that came out. Night Angel, which as far as I understand his name has been changed now to Deliver Us from Evil, directed by Dominique Girard, who I'd worked with on Halloween 5. We did Night Angel first. There's a sequence where this demon is born, and she takes the shape of a female, so they built this strange set where she was able to climb out of a hole in the ground. We covered her entire body. She had a hand prosthetic on, and we covered her entire body with pieces of latex and hot melt vinyl to simulate a translucent kind of skin, like she's shedding her skin, and underneath is this beautiful female.
Mark. Action.
All right, what we have here is, there's another sequence in the same film where one of the characters is in bed with his girlfriend, and he turns around and suddenly she has transformed into Lilith, this evil character, and all these snakes shoot out of her mouth and bite onto this guy's face. So Bob designed a makeup which were several prosthetics so that we could actually be able to attach some fake snakes onto the guy's face, and he could pull them and the skin would stretch. It looked like they were actually biting into his face. This was a very tricky sequence because there were a lot of camera tricks involved. We did a lot of reverse photography where you put the snake on his face, roll the cameras and pull it off, and then when they flip the film backwards, the thing looks like it's coming down to bite him on the face.
Start, please. Okay, walk out. Action. And cut.
We also had oversized hand puppets that were like snakes that we could do lunges at the camera with to intercut. We also did a dummy head of Lilith, which we could actually shoot the snakes out of her mouth.
And action. Snake. Good. Cut. Yeah. Really arrived. Okay.
Choose up.
That's all you remember about the opening act. That's it. Go.
Settle and roll camera.
Roll it. Action. Your hand, the other hand. And snake. Okay, good. Again the snake. And the other hand. And snake. That's good. Again. And
This is Mark Matry and I applying Michael Myers' hand appliances. Michael Myers, the shape was played by Don Shanks, a local Utah stuntman. Every time that we saw the shape, he had burned back of the hand appliances on to maintain continuity from the other films. The other films, he was burned in the end of part 2, and he's been shot about 50,000 times, stuff like that. Anyway, with Dominique, he always wanted to see tests. So what we did was we had an extra head. We have a couple tests here. You can see some they don't work quite well, other times they do. The blood tubing here is hooked on the instrument. As the instrument goes in, the blood is pumped, and it looks like it's coming out of the fake head when it's actually coming out of the instrument itself. This was by the time we got it to this 4th test, we figured that we were pretty happy with it and got it to the point where the director saw it and was very pleased.
And there it is, the art of terror, as described by the K&B Special Effects Group. Here at the front office of their studio, producers and directors deliver the ideas which are turned into reality. Images from under the bed or lurking in the shadows, brought into the light for us to see. And what nightmarish images could these possibly be? What fiendish demons are K&B preparing to unleash upon the world next time?
You can see things in a film that break the mood entirely, that make the idea of scaring anybody impossible. Even in the worst horror novels ever written, there's no zipper running down the monster's back. Whereas in some of the American International pictures from the 50s, you can see that zipper. I mean, you see a picture like the hideous sun demon you know, and you can see that guy's skin around the reptile face. When the giant praying mantis in the Deadly Mantis knocks over a bus in New York, you see the word Tonka written across the bottom.
Of course, today the answer is that with enough money, any special effect is possible. But two producers, each a self-made mogul, demonstrate that large budgets are not at all necessary. Horror is alive and well in Hollywood, even if you must produce on a shoestring budget.
I'm Jack Death. I'm a trooper in the 23rd century.
Jack Death, Angel City PD. May I see your stats?
What did I do?
Under Section 7 of the Penal Code, the Council authorized me to administer you a transfer suspect examination.
You can't give me a TSE without a warrant.
I got your warrant right here, pal.
Okay. I don't want any trouble.
Pull that.
My job is hunting transfers,
I got nothing to hide.
finding them, and singeing them.
Look out!
Of course, sometimes they find me first. Then it's a little more complicated.
It's a terrible business in a sense. I mean, I love it, but it's a business that, you know, it's an art form, it's a cutthroat business. You got to have an even mix of talent and cunning and God knows what else to, you know, to survive. Sometimes when you go a little further and you take a chance, even within your small, you know, range, you know, you can be very successful because it's something different that people are looking for anyway.
He's dead? Not anymore.
There are some pictures that I've made that were not initially successful, let's say theatrically, but have lived on in home video and have become, you know, again, to call a picture a cult classic or a cult film is probably overreaching, but you know, when a picture that's 7 or 8 years old still is rented and they reorder it, it has some life of its own. I just enjoy the genre, you know. I would, you know, sitting down, having a choice, which we now have with if you have a home video, some kind of a library, or the choice of going and renting a tape. You know, we've never had such choice before. In the past, up to not too many years ago, you know, you'd open your paper and there were 15, 18, 20 pictures being played, and that was it. You know, you couldn't go and look at 5,000 films on a video shelf and say, I'm in the mood for comedy, and then you look at 400 comedy selection. And so with all this choice, you know, more times than not, I wind up in front of horror, science fiction, fantasy, sometimes comedy. This business you reinvent every 90 days, and that's why it's tough to do a 2 or 3 year business plan, because in 6 months the business has changed again. But today, you've got a possibility with a picture that costs between, say, $1 and $2 million to make a modest profit between worldwide home video and television without the picture having really to go out theatrically. You know, if you ship 25,000, 30,000 units in the U.S. market, you're doing well on what anyone would consider a smaller picture. So between that and, again, your foreign sales, which are really guarantees by other similar distributors, again, there's a business. It's not a get-rich business, at least picture by picture, but if you stay in there, you know, hopefully it all works out. We know that there is you know, a finite number of people who enjoy a horror film or a fantasy film, and so that helps. And I think more than anything else, again, back to the analogy of making a bad horror film, which no one sets out to make, but even if it's not so good, it's still marketable. And also a horror film, even cheap horror films that take place in one location, a haunted house or whatever, are fairly affordable to make as opposed to a big action film, or obviously any film that would require, you know, major stars. I love pictures, I love making films, and I really felt that as opposed to being a filmmaker that would eternally have scripts under his hands knocking on doors in Hollywood, which is a tough thing to do, that I would make some low-budget films, make some money, have some sort of resources of my own, and then not have to, you know, beg for the dollars to go out and make pictures. I made a picture called Trancers, which deals with the exploits of Jack Death, this kind of futuristic cop who comes back to the present day to solve a problem that really exists in the future. And that picture worldwide has resurfaced and, you know, keeps coming back. There are a lot of pictures like that that I keep playing. They play television, they're on video, and again, they're all pictures that are, you know, by industry standards, tiny budgets.
But I think there's, you can do enough with that budget range that I've been talking about to put enough quality on the screen if you have some talent that, allows these pictures to live on. It'd be nice just to talk about making horror films, as a creative art form, but it's so immersed in, pre-selling the horror concept in order to get the funding, in order to make the movie, that they kind of go hand in hand. We really develop everything in-house. With few exceptions, I've developed the concept, title, and artwork for the pictures that I've been involved with. So therefore, what we really look for are writers who can write scripts for projects that we've already conceived, as opposed to what is traditionally done in this business, where you have hundreds of submissions every week and you have readers who read a good script, and it's much more difficult to find a good script that is attached to a good concept. Many times we'll find a screenplay, or sometimes we'll find a screenplay that's very well written, but it makes no sense to make that movie. But then at least we have a writer we know can write that kind of a project, and then we will look at what we've got in development, and then we'll match the concept to the writer.
What are you going to do to me?
I'm going to kiss you.
My projects have generally not been very violent. I've not made slasher films. It's never been my thing. Under the fantasy umbrella, you can get away with a lot of mayhem without having to, show people being cut up. I mean, if a crazy creature from another dimension comes and squishes you, I mean, it's all under the guise of fantasy and some kind of fun. But if it's a very real guy, who's got a knife and cuts you up, and he comes from, a gang, I mean, that to me there's nothing fun about that, and I'll let other people make those films. We've made many of our pictures in Italy. The reason why is, up to recently, I owned a studio there when I had a company called Empire. It made a lot of sense to make pictures there 3-4 years ago because the dollar was very strong. Italy is a great place to make pictures. It's outside the United States, I think, one of the best places to shoot. The film industry there is very mature. Great place to work, great people, great food, great everything. And it made economical sense. Of course, things have changed, not that the country is any less great to shoot in, but the dollar is much weaker. It's no longer what it was 3-4 years ago, and therefore, with certain exceptions, most of our product will be shot here. Those exceptions being films that either require locations that exist over there already, or maybe it's a picture that may involve some Italian co-financing because it's a subject matter that appeals to either Italy or Europe. We have a branch there. We have a full office in Rome, and whether it's been through Empire or now separately with the new company, this is I think our 6th year, keeping a small staff in Rome. So we're on the lookout there for co-production deals. We handle our product there. As Europe becomes one in 1992, it will be really our base, of operations in Europe. It's always more convenient to shoot a picture in your own backyard. The problem with Los Angeles is, you got the greatest craftspeople in the world, the greatest filmmakers, the greatest everything, but it's also the highest cost. You'd think that almost in the home of movies you would find the better bargains, but everyone here is very jaded. It's very tough to get a location because people's streets have been shot out 300 times and they want just to see you move, and turn around and leave. And, it's expensive to shoot here. And it's less expensive elsewhere, but elsewhere involves, a move, a location, and being, not so close to a project that you're spending a lot of money on over, a period of a few short weeks. You really got to start doing it at the bottom. I mean, I was involved in the beginning in, hand numbering negative and you name it. I mean, I've done every bad job and fun job, and once you get a feel for it, if you really are going to be involved in producing film, there's no way to do that other than doing it, even if it's for free, and I'd advise anyone to get on a set and work for nothing and just gain the experience and the connections, because, one thing does lead to another if you're in action.
Most of the films that we make here, the genre type things, I would never go to see them unless I'd made them myself. I mean, if somebody else had made them, I wouldn't look at them, I don't think. A few of them maybe.
As much an entrepreneur as he is an artist, Fred Olen Ray finds survival in the industry more terrifying than the horror films he directs. Nevertheless, he has made a very large name for himself, making very small-budget films without compromising his values.
I just don't like teenagers or young people in general. I don't have any particular love for them, so most of my leads tend to be more middle 30s and stuff like that. I just don't enjoy working with kids very much. I don't know why. You know, maybe I was a rotten kid myself. It's probably an unpopular position, but I don't really enjoy seeing people having their veins and stuff pulled out of their arms and stuff. I just, you know, I've seen a lot of it, so I really feel like I've seen enough. I don't shoot rape scenes. I don't deal in drug abuse. Most of my action pictures, the people are fighting over a suitcase full of money, because I'm really sick of seeing people fighting over cocaine or something. So I said, whatever happened to money? You know, I really haven't found out which part of the process that I really like. I don't actually seem to enjoy any of it. So there must be something, must be the cumulative effect, because I haven't been able to figure out exactly what aspect of this industry I enjoy. Probably getting paid, you know. We run the business because up until a year or so ago, that was the biggest stumbling block. We weren't getting paid. We were making the films and people were ripping us off or stealing from us or whatever, so we finally started figuring out dollars and cents wise that we could sell the picture ourselves for less money than a guy with more connections could sell it for, but we didn't have to pay him his commission and we didn't have to take him to court to get our share. So we felt like we would probably make more money in the long run by making lesser deals but getting them directly in-house, and we would see our money quicker. It's usually you get on a quarterly report, which is every 3 months, and it's 45 days after the end of the quarter to get the report. So you're looking at about 4.5 months each time just to see if you made any money. Well, here I make the sale, the money comes in, I give you your film, and into the bank it goes. So I'm more assured of getting my money. It was a very slow start. I actually had to work a regular job during the week and make films on the weekends because I never made any money at them. You know, we never made a dime off movies like Scalps and The Alien Dead and Biohazard. I think the turning point was when one company had bought a few territories on Biohazard for more than the picture had cost to make, and they found it out and they said, hey, let's get this guy in here and give him some money. And so I was able to get into Transworld and do The Tomb, which at that time was my biggest budget ever. I think it was about $180,000, and I made maybe $5–6 million for them. It was like a 30 to 40,000 video unit mover, and so it sort of became in distribution circles. The Tomb, while the picture is not considered to be a classic, it's considered to be a classic of video distribution, and that directly led to some bigger pictures. And once I had the bigger pictures, where we were making $1.5 million to $2.5 million films like Deep Space and Armed Response, at that point I could then go back on my own and say, I want this amount of money, I'll make a little picture, but I want everything my way, and get it. And so that's kind of what we do now. We still go out and do the bigger budget films, but we also do films that are just for our own personal satisfaction, just to be the boss, you know. When you direct a film, you have to really stop everything. Like next week, I mean, this place is dead. There's no one to answer the phones. I can't meet with anybody. I can't do any kind of business, you know. And if you're going to direct and produce, you have to be able to sort of shut down your whole operation. Our operation works on sort of a whim here, and we just kind of do what we want as we want, and the time schedule basically works around us. There used to be a myth that you couldn't put anything down on film for less than $150,000. I think there are people out there disproving that every day. You know, when people say, oh yeah, I made it, I saw it in the trades today, made on the shoestring of $400,000. Well, if that's a shoestring, I guess we're making pictures on the wrapper that the shoestring comes in. Because in-house here we're doing things for a lot less than that. I think there's a myth that keeps kids back. Kids think they can't do anything unless they can raise $150,000, $200,000. And that's not true. You can make a picture for just about anything you can come up with, you know, money-wise. And especially if you're a beginner, you get a lot more breaks, and you know, you can get crews deferred, and if you're out in a rural area somewhere, you can get actors from little theaters and stuff who will defer their pay. And it's like wrestling. I think you have to learn to fall from a great height and not hurt yourself too badly. If anything, I think it's learning the business end, which is most filmmakers don't want to do that. They want to make their films, they want to hand it over, and they want to get their money. Well, it doesn't work like that. I think our survival tactics here have been to learn the business, learn the contracts, be on the lookout for people who want to do you harm, and try to avoid them or try to prevent them from doing you harm, so that the pictures that we do make are profitable to us, because we're not in a position to rip anybody off. They're our own films. It's very hard to rip yourself off. And those films that are financed from outside, it's worth it to us not to rip them off so that we can continue to seek financing from those people. If they don't make any money, they're certainly not going to give us any more. You know, a lot of films nowadays aren't really released theatrically, and that's what, they go straight to video, and that's when it's really hard to figure out what people like, because you can't go home with them, you can't stand in the video store, you don't really know what they're thinking. Video is kind of like the old drive-in days where it's like, you know, buyer beware. You know, you look at the box cover, it's kind of like the great ad that used to be in the Friday paper, and you go to the theater and, you know, God help you, you don't know what the hell you're going to see. And that's kind of what video is. It's kind of like, because there are a lot of titles you've never heard of before, no advanced hype or anything. You just kind of take your chances. It's very hard to say, because some people love films that other people despise, and, you know, I'm the same way. You know, my girlfriends used to say, you know, why do you watch so many awful movies when there's so many good ones out there you've never seen? I'm just looking to be entertained.
I figured you'd try something like this.
I'll be right back.
I would rather watch something other than, you know, Terms of Endearment, which I've never seen, don't ever intend to see. You know, I don't think I'd watch Bloodthirsty Butchers instead, but, you know what I mean? Slave Girls from Beyond Infinity, probably over in Terms of Endearment.